All right, so shall we call the meeting to order?
Yeah.
All right, so at 6:30, we're going to call the Town of Fairfield Board of Finance Senior and Disabled Tax Relief Subcommittee meeting to order. It's Tuesday, it's Monday, today's the 22nd of January. So this is an special organizational meeting so we can set up officers, set our calendar for the year, and do want to get an update from the tax assessor on some of the requested changes that he's made, but we should probably start by moving to item 2. I don't know if you saw my I reached out to you earlier. I'm happy to. Item 2 is to hear and consider
Yeah.
approve 2024
I
office.
nominate you.
I second that. So
All in favor?
aye. All right. So that will both the chair and the secretary. I'll just take the minutes and submit it to
Okay.
the town clerk, so it makes it easy for you. So that's done. Before, are you okay if we move item 4 to item 3? Just get the schedule out of the way.
Sure.
Really, the idea was I just set us up a week after our regular Board of Finance meetings. We can always cancel,
Yeah.
but it's easier just to put it on the calendar. So I've got it set up in February, April, May, June. Take this July and August off, and then September, October, November, December. And if we don't need the meeting, I'll just cancel.
Yeah, that's
So
fine.
does that work for you?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Perfect. So we want to make a motion to accept it. I'll make a motion to accept the schedule for the upcoming year.
Okay, and I second. All in favor? Good. All right, so we're good there. So that leaves us with one item left, and that is to review and discuss the current senior and disabled tax relief program with the Fairfield tax assessor, and discuss suggested changes that you submitted, right? And there was backup that was provided with the notice. I see that there were 4 items that you had highlighted for us for consideration. And then you had also provided some additional detail on some of the program statistics and things like that. So I'd love to go through both with you.
Absolutely.
Before we start, though, I did want to make sure someone here is aware, and for those out in the Ethernet, I did reach out to Phil Pierce as the town attorney just to get clarity on the process that we should be following. And what he mentioned was that there hasn't been some ambiguity as to the appropriate process and how to start this. However, so long as we're coordinated with the RTM, it really doesn't matter how we start. So my expectation is to review this with you. Then if you're in agreement, John, we'll take this to the full board.
Right.
And then we'll communicate the board's position to the RTM subcommittee, Senior and Disabled Tax Relief Subcommittee. They'll need to put some legislation around these changes. They can take it and act on that, and then we'll approve it. So that's my expectation. But Russ, do you want to take us through the
These
4
are
items?
These are really administrative changes to make the program consistent with the state and, clarify some of the processes that we have to go through. So the first one was under conditions of eligibility. The recommendation is to change the age for a surviving spouse from currently it's at 50 years of age and change that to, currently it's at 60 and change it to 50.
Okay.
And that's consistent with what the state does. So this way, if they, if a spouse passes away, you don't get ejected from one program and not the other. You keep both.
Okay. And are you aware of any individuals that this may have applied to in the last number?
I think in the last couple of years, we had one person. I checked recently and there's no one that this would affect at the moment.
Okay. So
there's
so not
must why it's not
right. Okay.
just really for the future.
All right.
You just, because I'm new to this committee, when you say state program, it's what are you referring to?
Sure. There's 2 programs the town has. There's the state senior disabled credit, elderly credit, and that's offered by almost all towns. There's one town that doesn't.
Okay.
But it's a state mandated program. It used to be funded by the state. The state is now defunded that, so
we're still running.
we pick up the cost on it. It is similar to ours. It's based on income, marital status, and age or disability. But it's a much more modest reimbursement.
Gotcha.
The max you can get on that is $1,250.
Okay.
And then, of course, we have our town program, which is much more generous, higher income limit, higher credit amounts. We have, two other programs, a freeze and a deferral.
Yeah, I remember that stuff. Yeah.
Nobody takes the freeze.
Right.
The credit is generous enough that there's really no benefit to take the freeze. You don't, by the time you can only be on it for 6 years. And by the
Right.
time you even catching up to what you probably will get on the credit, you've got to go off of it. So it's doesn't really make any sense for people.
So these changes that we're making without we're changing our ordinance to mirror what the state is doing.
Correct.
Okay. That's
At least in terms of this first one with
First one,
eligibility.
Yeah, with the first one.
all right. I get it now. Go ahead.
And I should take a step back too, and that is, John, if you remember when I joined the Board of Finance a couple of years ago, the idea with Chris DeWitt and Sheila Marmion, who were on the subcommittee with me, discussed whether we should open this up for
Right.
consideration. And the decision at the time was no, it's the previous set of changes were not mature enough and needed to ripen. So fast forward a couple of years, I think what we can discuss at a later meeting is whether we want to take a more broad look at it, but at a minimum, if we do that, I see that as phase 2, second half of the year.
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about now is a relatively quick hit.
Oh, yeah. I
So,
Yeah, there's essentially no impact to the
program now.
program
Right.
cost-wise.
Okay.
We're in we've done 2 years of the program since we changed it last, right?
I think it's more
I
than
think
that.
it's more.
Is it?
Yeah, because
It's at
it's 2 years since I joined and it had been.
Three or four.
We're in year 4 now?
We've, with COVID, there's been a lot of upheaval. For 2 years, we didn't have people come in.
Yeah, so
The
the COVID year wasn't.
1 year, 2020, they were coming in and then they stopped, and that was pretty messy. The year after, no one came in. Everybody was just granted a renewal. So when we started having people come back in, we started,
Seeing.
some of these people hadn't been in 4 years. So incomes changed and some
Yeah.
people, were disqualified from the program. A lot of people moved,
Yeah,
passed away, all that. So there was a lot of flux in that.
right. And after we talk about these potential 4 changes, he's got some stats on the.
Yeah. Go ahead. I didn't.
Yeah, so,
Second again.
number 2.
Yeah, so the second one is it's just a verbiage change to the qualifying income that would match the state. This doesn't change how we qualify people. It's just consistency.
Okay.
So it's all taxable, non-taxable income.
And just from a nomenclature standpoint, is non-taxable income the same, is it synonymous with tax exempt income? I don't know if there's a legal technicality.
I don't
always hear
know.
About
I
tax
don't
exempt income.
But we count your non-taxable Social Security.
Okay,
We include most of your exempt interest. There's a few exclusions, and it can get a little difficult because some of these get a little complex, but basically we're looking at what you have to live on,
okay,
not what you're taxed on.
okay. So, but examples of non-taxable would be Social Security.
Social Security is the big one because most people have that, and all of the Social Security is counted.
Yeah. Okay. And again, this is not a change in how the program operates, it's just cleaning up the language.
Right.
Okay.
It's just we're changing our language to match the current state language.
Okay,
Under conditions of eligibility, that's just a language correction there. Any applicant, not application.
Hmm.
And then the next one has to do with the assets. So we have a $650,000 test, not including your primary residence. So if you have a second home or you've got $1 million in the bank, then you should exclude yourself from the program.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a good way to check that. We don't have any way to verify that. So we have them fill out an affidavit that they attest that they meet the qualifications. But the current language says that you don't have 650,000 as of the date of application.
Yeah, that sounds like,
A floating date is very difficult to
Yeah.
manage and has caused some difficulty in the past. So my recommendation is you make it at the end of the preceding calendar year, which is at the same point in time we're looking at your income.
Okay.
Also gives people, they've got their year-end statement. They'll know what they've got. It's not, what the market did yesterday.
right. And
Is that a calendar year? Yeah, calendar. year.
Yeah, it would be the end of the calendar year. So we'd be looking at December 31st, 23 right now.
Okay.
And so and that would apply to December 31, 2023 would apply to what you're about to implement now for tax relief.
Right, so we
that would go
We
into-
start taking applications February 1st based on your 2020 income.
Yep. Okay, so,
And
so
then it goes on the July tax bill.
got it. Right. There's a little disconnect there, but that by design.
Yep.
So, okay. All these make sense to me so far. Okay.
And the last one, this is just some outdated language about sending a copy of the application. We printed on the tax bill. So, the information's there and we don't actually have them send us an application. We have them come in because there's so much information to gather. During COVID, we were doing it by mail and it was monstrous. Go back and forth with people and get the information. So we have them come in, ask them to bring their entire tax return. We copy what we need, enter the application right out of the system, print a copy, they sign it, and they're on their way.
Okay. So what you're just trying to delete here then is the
The
requirement
requirement
to send them.
Yeah, it's on the tax bill and it's available.
All right, John, do you see any reason why we can't just recommend this stuff? Perfect. All right, and the other two pieces of data that you provided as backup, I'd love to just walk through those just to get.
Sure.
These again.
This is a report that's given annually to the RTM.
This one?
Yes,
Okay.
both this and the back, both of those.
Okay,
They're both.
yeah,
It's evolved since I've been here and it's been, I guess, being presented for many years. So it's got a lot of categories on here.
yeah,
I'm sure it does.
Getting a little crowded. I think the main items are the number of applicants. So we had 1,092 people on the program.
now, is that last year?
This would be
Because you're,
for the July 23 tax bills.
okay,
So the 23-24 fiscal year.
right, okay, yep.
And that cost us just over 3.4 million.
And that 3.4, that's a number that I recognize from our budget
Yeah.
process, right? So we didn't know what the final number was when we approved the budget last year, but that's in line. I don't.
Right, because we take applications through May 15th. Plus there's some that get extensions
Mm-hmm,
and then we do prorate people off
mm-hmm,
through the.
But that's a
so
firm
it's a
number,
moving
though.
Number, but, well, this is the number as this is the final number for July 1st. So there were prorations to this. It's not a huge change, but
There's always some change.
right. So if you pass away in
Mhm.
April or you sell your house in July,
mm-hmm,
we're going to prorate that benefit off. So we're going to recoup some of that back.
got it.
And then we have people that are on extension, so they may not get their application to us until August.
Yep.
So there's always a little bit of movement on it, but it's not significant.
And can you refresh my memory? I know I talked about this with the subcommittee a couple of years ago, but just the difference, I know you mentioned the freeze is part of the program that doesn't get taken advantage of clearly, but there are only two people on deferral. What's the difference between the credit and the deferral? The credit is true reduction, deferral is just kick a can.
You can defer
Ain't anything.
50 and 75% of your tax bill,
Mm-hmm,
but it has to be repaid.
got it. So it's just a
That-
timing benefit.
That's the thing. A lot of people don't want to have a debt. They,
Mhm.
they don't want to have to repay something or have their kids have to repay something down the road. So that's why that's generally not been a popular option. And
Mhm.
again, the credit program is generous to the point where it
Doesn't make sense, right?
Doesn't really make sense. You know, if you're at a lower income level, you're gonna almost be getting 75% depending on the value of your house. So,
Mhm. Yep.
and with the changes that were made last time, the lowest income level was pretty much maxed out.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get 75%. And that is the max by state statute.
Mm-hmm. And if I'm reading this correctly, dollar wise, we're down.
Right, we're down by about 160.
And we're down about 50 people.
Right.
Okay. And I think one of the questions that we should talk about, not tonight, John, but at a later point, probably in coordination with the RTM, is really what's the mission? Are we looking to increase the number of participants? Are we looking to increase the total dollar? Should we be targeting 3.5 million? Like, there are a lot of open questions that I have that I think collectively we can brainstorm with the RTM subcommittee. And really, once we know what our mission is or what our goals are, then I think we can decide whether it makes sense to make any changes or not. Because if our goal is to have 1,090 people participate and give relief of 3.4 million, this doesn't require any changes, right? So.
There's been a tug of war between those that wanted to just get the number of people up, felt that would go up.
Mm-hmm.
And then the others that felt, well, let's, what's the goal of the program? What's the best place to spend the money?
Yeah. Yeah. And clearly this stratification between how that 1,090 people, in certain income ranges, whether we want to try and push more relief to the lower levels or whatever, there's a lot of tweaking that could be considered. But yeah, clearly if we don't have a common goal or mission or whatever, there's no, and we're just talking for the sake of talking, right? Okay.
What's the age requirement again?
65 by the end of the year, unless you have a disability.
Right, I see. This,
If you're just,
disabled, it's.
yeah. And we've got a total of 19
Yeah.
that qualify under the disability.
Okay.
Okay.
So on here, we have a schedule of the benefits by income range.
Mm-hmm.
And that you read that across, you've got the credit program. I broke out the disabled, and then the deferral folks, and then totals. A schedule by assessment range of the house. Really pretty much, I think, what you'd expect. There's nothing really that you would say is out of the ordinary. It's, you see the most in the mid-range where the bulk of the houses are, where the people at those mid-income ranges are. And we have an age range distribution, and you can see that kind of, rises as people retire and then move away or pass away, it decreases. I was always surprised at the number over 95, 63. I thought that was a pretty high number.
Yeah. God bless them.
And then we have a schedule of the dollars or the income and how many are in each income category.
Okay.
And then if you read across, this is a difficult number for me to produce, and I think I've got it correct. If you look at the bottom right box, there's the number at a dollar max.
This one right here, you're looking at?
Nope, on the front, on that one here, bottom right.
Right by your, yeah.
Schedule of benefit ranges. So so we have a maximum dollar amount for the program, a maximum percentage of your tax bill, and a maximum that you can get is you have to pay at least 25% of your bill. So you've got kind of three limiters on the program. So you can see the number that are maxed out on dollars, the numbers that are maxed out based on the percentage, and the number that are at 25%.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see at the bottom, pretty much that group is getting as much as we could possibly give them, especially in those bottom two ranges.
Okay. That's great.
And then on the backside is just the summary over time for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
So you can see we've, 5 years ago, we were looking at 1,300-ish people in the program, and now we're down, just over 200 people.
Yeah, so 1311, 1306, 1318, pretty steady for a 3-year run, and then dropped off 1139 last year.
Right, so-
1192, wow.
Fiscal year 2022 is when we were taking applications in, February 20,
Mm,
right before COVID hit. So
mm,
that's, it's a 2-year lag there. And then down at the very bottom, you can see the state program. So we've got some numbers for that.
oh, okay.
We had, similar, we were at 630 or so people, and now we're down to 520 on the state.
So the state program is roughly $250,000, 300 and change.
Yep.
That's on top of the town program. So in total, the town this past year had a little over 3.7 million in total relief.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So if the fiscal year 2022 numbers, which is the peak of the program, those applications were taken just before COVID. Now, some of the runoff could be COVID related, right? And
I think some of it was because that was a rollover year. The next year, I think we were seeing a lot of sales.
Mhm,
People were cashing in on the market.
Yeah, because that's when people
Mhm.
move here like crazy.
mhm.
The city.
Well,
Yeah.
the market, it's still going,
Yeah, it's-
but, people were taking advantage, especially the seniors, they
Yeah.
cashing out.
yeah.
And we have no way of knowing through the town clerk's office why people sell or move, right? It's just not any data we'll ever be able to.
That's the problem with this, and I think is a frustration for everybody that's, trying to analyze it, is we don't have perfect data or even great data. Once we go above our income limits.
Yep.
I mean, I can do projections based on our current income levels, and
Yeah.
if we change figures within that, but once you say, well, let's raise the income limit 10 grand, I can't tell you who's out there.
Right.
I just I haven't been able to find that sort of data. I've done this in other towns and it's been the same problem.
Right.
I mean, is there a way to? This goes to the big question if if you want to change the program. Do we know someone's going to get the benefit of the senior tax relief program, but nevertheless sells the house because he or she still says, hey, despite me getting the benefit, I still can't afford to live here. I mean, I don't know how you.
My personal opinion is, the money does the most good at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's where you make the biggest impact. Somebody that's at 70,000, 80,000 showing 70 or 80,000 in retirement, probably has more in the bank.
Yeah.
They have the means to say, I'm not going to pay that bill, and giving them a couple of grand isn't the tipping point.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that probably makes sense. Yeah.
It's going to be the rest of their taxes, or they're tired of cold or whatever.
Right.
Going.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that for the lion's share of the participants here, it just takes some of the stress of staying away, or minimizes that, or reduces it. But when the time comes for them to punch out, a couple of $1,000s isn't gonna keep.
It's not the difference. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And that's why I've always been a proponent of putting it to the bottom.
Mhm.
Maxing out the lower income brackets. I think that's where you get the most benefit if you're truly trying to keep people in that house.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So with that, thank you for that review. With that, I think our next step would be to take this forward to the full board. I'll ask Lori to put this on the agenda at our next meeting. I don't know if she'll want you to give this same spiel,
Sure.
15 minutes is perfect. If not, we can try and summarize it for the board. But and then after we get this phase 1 stuff, do these 4 changes through the RTM and approved, I think it probably makes sense to reconvene after your busy season later, second half of this year, in coordination with the RTM, hear your recommendations as to what's working, what's not working. Like you said, push
I
things
would
down.
recommend starting that as soon as you can.
Okay,
The process has typically just been arduous.
yeah,
To get these changes. There's a lot of back and forth. So, you know, if I would prefer to have, we're gonna have income changes.
yeah.
We really need those in place before February 1st.
This year,
Well, no, this,
like-
these aren't really gonna,
not yet, it's for.
but if you're gonna say, oh, we're gonna raise the upper income limit 10,000, we need to know that before February 1st. Because otherwise, we don't know what to tell people if they're coming in, and we've turned them away and now we gotta find who they were, we'll lose them if they
Okay.
actually qualified. So really, we need to have this.
So we got to work the calendar backwards. And I do know Lori asked that we try not to clog up our March calendar. You know, because that's when we do the town budget. And
Right.
in April, the RTM is busy with their piece on the town budget. So really, I think it's May is when we could pick
Yeah.
it up realistically, but we can
Yeah.
start it then.
But just keep that February 1st in mind as we, because that, like I say, there's a waiting period too when you make changes, I believe, so that
Okay.
come into play, so,
So a year from now, you need.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 1 year. It goes fast.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it.
Anything from the public? Not seeing any. I think we're good. Motion to adjourn?
Yep.
All right, so moved. Thank you.